Greetings, traveller, or hello there, whatever I'm saying here. So for this Saturday I thought I'd do something a bit different. Over the past couple of weeks / month, I've been churning out the I Fight the Monster Manual series, and in that I've even finished it, I've even started to bang a few of them. So I thought, this Saturday, I'm going to take it a bit slow. As to the full reasons why, I'll explain at the end, but for now I thought, why not, me and you, no green screen, no script, nothing, let's just have a chat, let's engage like human beings. I don't want to come across as a character like the bad guy who just fights the monster manual and then slips it in at the end, so if I want to keep going with all this, keep the ideas fresh and all that, I don't want to just go, right, what do I do after the monster manual? Someone said, do Volo's Guide, do Modern Cannons, that sort of thing, so I thought, okay, before I literally do 3 books, 15 episodes, let's take it slow. I'm thinking maybe 3 weeks of just not that series, at least, and then we'll move on to that. This week, we're just going to have a bit of a chill and talk about my favourite TTRPG things, some of them to do with D&D, some of them not to do with D&D. If you're here, you probably like D&D, I like D&D, you like D&D, we like this game, but there are other games, and I don't want to just focus on one game. I love movies, games, all matter of story, things, and tabletop, board game, all these geeky stuffs. So, I want to create content for all of these things and not just the one hobby, so I want to explore some of those other hobbies. So yeah, people have their negative affiliations towards D&D. That might be because they just don't like the system, or the ones being that it's bored of it by now. For example, I remember I wanted to run a different game, and I was like, right, let's run a one-shot, except we'll use like a different system. This really simple system, you know, we'll see, we'll try that out. And my friend was like, can we just play D&D? Just because everyone likes that thing. It's like when people made other games and World of Warcraft still existed, so people just kind of focused on World of Warcraft despite the quality of these other games just like it. So the camera's on, let's have a fireside chat, grab a drink, grab a snack, maybe you can put this on while you're cooking something, you're doing a drive, whatever it is. I'm just going to sit here and have a nice chill. I've even got myself a little drinky. So, my favourite systems TTRPG things that aren't focused on D&D. I say that because 2 of these things are D&D related, so yeah, we'll cover those. Also, when I say favourite, I don't mean perfect. I think that we have a lot of things in our lives that we really like, but they're not perfect. Like, even the best things, our most favourite things, we can pick a lot out of. The things that we love the most are the things we've circulated in our brains enough to kind of go, love this, but that's like Star Wars, love it, loved it since I was a child, but I can pick out negatives if you told me to. The same with Lord of the Rings, I know, blasphemy. So yeah, with all these things I say my favourites, I'm going to give my honest opinions in full. They're going to be the things I like about them, and the things I don't like. But when I say I don't like them, that's not me saying don't buy them, or don't like them, or I don't like them. It's an analysis and picking out these things out of love. And also, it's just my opinion. The things I don't like, someone else will love. That'll be their favourite part of the game. I've got the books, I've got 2 more of them up there. You'll probably see them in some of my videos. But when I mentioned that they're not all going to be things that aren't D&D, this is why. Because Grim Hollow, I love this. When this was out, when this first got like announced, the idea of having a dark fantasy world was such a fun idea. And then also, just a side note, this keeps happening with me. Every time I have a good idea, I'm like, this is awesome, this is a good idea. And then, give me like a week, and I will have found something that already has done my idea. For example, in the lore, there's a place to the east, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. To the east, it's full of vampires, it's full of darkness, there's literally a shroud over the sky in this region. And there's an underground city where all this stuff happened, and basically every little piece of the map, there's like a piece of lore, or there's a thing you can do, a main attraction. And one campaign I ran, I was like, how did these guys read my mind the entire time to create Grim Hollow? So when it was a thing where Grim Hollow came out, I was like, oh great! Now all my ideas are in this book. The way Ghostfire Gaming changed how you run your D&D game, whether it's focusing on horror with the advice that you have in it. There are subclasses that are fantastic. There are monsters that they have in another book. They have a campaign guide that has a whole slew of my favourite thing about Grim Hollow, the transformations. whether you want to be a lycanthrope, a vampire, a lich, which is amazing, all of these really cool bonus and flaws that you have for being these things are all present, and it's such a fun idea. There are curses, there are beings that you can get cursed into. It's such a fun and just really gothic horror, cool focus to really take your D&D game into a dark, spoopy land, and it's cool. I like it. I like it a lot if you haven't noticed. Any negatives to point out? I can't really think of any, because it's not that kind of product where, you know, it's based on this game that we like, and it's not trying to change the existing stuff. It's just adding to it, so you can run a game in this world, and it'll have all these new things to bring into it without spoiling the original system. So yeah, if you come to this video and you didn't know about Grimhollow, I'm glad I could show you. Please look even more into it. Look into the PDFs that you can buy, the physical books if you can. The physical books were an investment because of where I live, and you know, worth it. The next one I want to cover is D&D adjacent. It's not Grimhollow, it's not a book I can show you, but I can put it on screen somewhere. I've mentioned it before, Matt Colville, and I guess the entirety of MCDM now, his whole company, involving people like James Introcaso, all these amazing peeps that he's got in his company. The art for all of his products are fantastic, and his videos on running the game have been inspirations to many players and DMs in the sphere. But their products specifically, I love them. Whether it's the Arcadia issues, which I've got every single one because I'm on the Patreon, love it. Whether it's the Strongholds and Followers, giving you strongholds, retainers, basically followers that follow you about, organizations, basically do you want your adventuring group to be just adventurers, or do you want them to be a group of knights, wizards, sages, like all this fun stuff. And also, the guy loves warfare, bringing into D&D, realising this fantasy of not just being, I'm Greg and I have a sword and we're going to go fight Vecna, but also the idea that Vecna has an army and we also have an army, and if he has an army, we need an army, so warfare is going to have to come into it. And how do we make warfare fun? You know, ask Matt. He's done all these books and all these products and even little videos to give you little snippets on how that shit works. And yeah, it's really cool. Also, they've released 2 classes thus far, the Beast Heart and the Illrigger. Both ones I love very much. I think the Illrigger is doing some testing for its beta or its secondary version right now. But you can't go wrong with the Beast Heart. And just recently, Flea Mortals came out. A bunch of monsters or changes on the existing monsters, with some added in, of course. And they're amazing. And also, thank you, Matt and James, everyone that contributed, for the main reason I'm saying this. You made vampires actually cool. The next company I want to introduce you to, if you've never heard of this company, you've probably heard of their games before them, maybe, and those would be Chaosium. You probably know Chaosium from being the creators of Call of Cthulhu, the tabletop role-playing game, not the video game, and RuneQuest. RuneQuest is, you know, we're diving into the not D&D stuff now with Chaosium's products. So, RuneQuest is a fantasy role-playing game that I think, as of now, it might be 40 plus years old. I might be wrong on that research, but I think that's the case. And it's long-standing. The lore in here is fantastic. It's more gods and a lot of creationism. There's a lot of lore within how the world goes about. The magic system is very unique and it all ties together. This world is linked very, very closely. And one thing that I really like about RuneQuest and Call of Cthulhu, because they both kind of use a similar system, is they use a D100 system where everything that you do, you're trying to roll under your skill or whatever you're trying to do, whether it's like firearms in Call of Cthulhu, or it's agriculture in RuneQuest. Like, I'm not saying that to say that RuneQuest is like Catan, but that was just the one that I like off the top of my head. And yeah, so this game has a roll under your skill sort of system, and that means it's super simple to play. If you are given a character sheet, you go, okay, roll on this skill. Roll underneath, you succeed. It's that simple. There's no modifiers. There's no weird stuff with ability modifiers and scores and what's my passive perception and what's my initiative. Oh, it matches my dexterity. Then why isn't it just called dexterity? Why is it this? And also armor class. How do I work that out? But I'm wearing this kind of nothing like that. Also, what's quite cool is the combat system in here is very cool. It's got a very unique system in the sense that it's not just I'm Greg, I have a sword, and I'm going to stab this orc. It's more along the lines of, if you've played Actually, I can't think of a game that has this sort of system. Oh, actually, do you know when you play Fallout and it has that sort of VATS system? If you're that kind of player, you might go, okay, freeze, gonna shoot its leg to hopefully try and cripple them until they walk a bit slower. That sort of thing. You can go for the head, harder to hit, but if you go for that, you'll do horrendous damage and really hurt the person. If you hit the arm, they can't hurt as well. They can't attack as well. And if you hit their leg, they're going to be slowed down. Hit the body, you're going to be hitting vital organs, that sort of thing. So you need to wear armor, you can choose where to hit. It's very cool. So I highly recommend Rune Quest. It's very cool to have a character that isn't just, I'm a barbarian, but instead, my name is, insert name here, and I have these skills, and I grew up on a farm, and now, with the wonderful lore that I have to explore in here, my GM and me are going to go on this fantastic adventure. And along the way, with every skill roll, I have the potential to get better. Like, you can roll on agriculture, as I mentioned before, and just get better through agriculture, through actually using them. It's kind of like Skyrim in that way, how, in the sense that when you use your destruction magic, your conjuration, your one-handed stuff, you get better at that thing because you used it. You practice with that thing, and you get better at that thing. Call of Cthulhu, very different. This is stepping towards more of the vein of horror, cosmic horror, more specifically. This is inspired by the Cthulhu mythos or H.P. Lovecraft, whichever way you want to spin. And the combat system is not as robust, purposefully so. It's not a fighty sort of game. It's more of your Sherlock Holmes detective working out mysterious mysteries and getting scared along the way, and also your character can go insane. Isn't that fun? It's got a luck system, it's got firearms, a whole slew of different skills that you can learn. Again, it's 1920s based, so because of that, the book has a whole help for you if you're not fully acquainted with American history. And it's got everything you may need to start your adventure. What I will say about Chaosium, and this is something I'm going to compare very soon to another company that's coming up very soon. Chaosium games are really easy and really fun to play, but creating a character is a lot. Because of the many skills and the way you allocate points to make those skills, there's ways you can make the characters where there's one where it's like a simple way of making them, and you really do need that for some people because they just don't like the whole insane spending of points thing that ends up happening. I know for groups that I've run, it's got to the point where I just went, right, what do you want to play in terms of your job? Like, we're all humans, what job do you want to be? Think of a job, and that job is in here. And by job, I literally mean job, not a role in the party. Like, what vocation does your character have? Are you a scientist, reporter, doctor, that sort of thing? So, just tell me that, and I'll do it for you, because, again, it's a complex process. Other people might find it very easy. I don't find the character creation process smooth. Smooth is the wrong word. It's not quick. It's not rules light, I guess. The same with Rune Quest. If you are more used to other fantasy RPGs, the magic system might catch you off guard. But at the end of the day, both these games are fitting towards Chaosium's views of fantasy games and horror games, and they both are amazing to play. Again, amazing to play. They would be fantastic to stream and have videos put out on, and be fun to watch, they'd be fun to play in, but again, you need to be a bit more experienced if you want to dive into trying to create your own character. Conversely to that, how the whole it's easy to play but hard to make a character, what an intro, I apologise. Paizo, of course, releasing Pathfinder and Starfinder. Now before you put me on the cross, let me explain what I mean about the whole easy and hard to play and to create a character towards the end. First, I'll go with the positives, and there's plenty of positives. The art in the books, fantastic. The comprehensive way they've handled all of these rules, fantastic. All of the products they put out, it seems like every other day, Paizo releases a new Pathfinder supplement. It's insane. There's many classes. The way that they run multi-classing, which there's no multi-classing, but the way they go about giving you a split class feel, really cool. And of course, the thing about Pathfinder that I think a lot of people see a draw in is that, unlike D&D, where it's like, right, you have a class, subclass. What, are you expecting anything else? Paizo does this thing where in Pathfinder, if you are a barbarian, a fighter, any class that you have what your character is kind of good at, but the abilities they have mostly come from the feats you choose. And the feats are numerous. You can have one character start at level 1, be a fighter, have another character, be a fighter, and when they get to level 20, they are completely different. The rules, the monsters, all of that is fantastic. Starfinder, it's in its first edition, and they just announced a second edition, so it's exciting times at the TTRPG table right now. Starfinder, I absolutely love. Looking through the classes in there, the ancestries that you can be, love it. The backgrounds, it gives off this really cool feel, and what I like about it is that it's not sci-fi, it's sci-fi fantasy, and I'm not saying sci-fi is bad. In fact, I'm making a sci-fi system myself, but the sci-fi fantasy thing means that the people who made Pathfinder can bring what made them sort of be great in the scene, I guess, when it comes to fantasy RPGs, and bring this into this other one. Like the front cover has a big old lizard guy, a human envoy, and what looks to be a rat man. I can't remember their names, but yeah, it's all very evocative, very cool, and very sci-fi fantasy stuff. I mean, you can have one guy on one end who's just a guy with a gun, then you have your friend who's raising a dragon from the dead. So about the whole hard and easy thing. So if you want to run this game, and if you want to make a character, making a character in something like Starfinder, bafflingly easy. Like, I looked at the Starfinder rules and I was like, oh wow, okay, there's a character. Pathfinder, bit more complex, I guess, if you want to call it complex by looking through the different feats, I guess. But what is complex is how you play, at least for me. I literally said in a game shop before, I went, myself, I like D&D and I like Pathfinder. And I like both, but I have problems with both for differing reasons. Pathfinder, it's because everything has a tag, which means every single ability, spell, little thing you use has a maddening amount of like reading work to make anything work. It's, for me, very complex. And this person at the game shop was like, it's not hard. And I was like, oh, do explain how I'm objectively wrong. And again, love Paizo. They're fantastic as a game creator peoples. They're fantastic online. Their sort of marketing team, incredible work. They've responded to me in likes and appreciation of their posts. They're very nice and active in the community. Again, supplements fantastic. Rules are great. Complex to play. Easy to make a character for. And I guess to look back, if you want to run D&D, definitely check out Grimhollow. Definitely check out MCDM. Support them to the moon, MCDM, because they really focus on how the games that you play can be even better and better and better and better into the stratosphere, and they really have a creative mind they apply to everything. There's a passion and a really critical way of looking at these rules of D&D, and probably going to be in their own system as well, that you just have to be there to see. Chaosium games, so fun to play, incredibly fun to play. They have a absolute insane amount of love poured into the systems they put out, and it's not just those two. They have Pendragon as well, which is a great Arthurian knight sort of game that you want to play. Amazing. And again, Pathfinder, Starfinder, amazing games, amazing supplements, such fun stuff online, great art, great rules, great books, so much fun. In honesty, when you say TTRPG, D&D, Chaosium, Paizo, and I guess just because I like D&D, Grimhollow and MCDM are the ones I think of. But now we're on to the more, I get not small, some of these are really big, some of these are really well known, but I guess less known in the modern millennial zeitgeist, I guess. First one that come to mind was GURPS. Do not ask me what GURPS stands for, but the RP in GURPS stands for role playing, obviously, but yeah. So it's a system where the whole thing is, do you know how you have D&D? And I always go back to D&D because it's the reference that pretty much everyone knows at this point. That's why. It's not because I'm trying to make every game more like D&D, or that I only like D&D. I'm just doing a comparison. So GURPS and D&D as a comparison. D&D is focused on fighting monsters and fantasy. You can go Spelljammer, but that's a sci-fi fantasy thing. Even Starfinder, as I mentioned, sci-fi fantasy. There's a fantasy focus. Meanwhile, GURPS, you can run fantasy, and you could also be soldiers fighting in Vietnam. GURPS is made so you can play anything. You can run any world, any IP, any setting. The players can play anything. The way the character creation works is fantastic because this is a comparison I thought of before. Again, do you know like Fallout, where you don't have your stats starting at like 10 and you have to choose which ones to increase? You can, if you want to, have your stats start here, but then to get much more perception and strength, for example, you can choose to destroy your agility and your endurance stats, so you get more points in a pool. You could reduce a bunch of your stats to get very focused in some stats, for example. You can do that with GURPS, kind of, by doing this thing where you purposefully give yourself setbacks to increase the amount of stat points you can put into your positive focused skills. Like you can choose to make yourself partially blind, for example, or someone who gets scared easily, and as a result this impacts your character and how they act and how they make rolls. And as a result, because you've got the setback, you can choose like, oh, I get scared easily, but I'm really smart and I can really focus into my smarts or whatever system you're playing. It's fantastic. Now when I say openness, the avenue I mean is, they say you can do anything, and the way they say you can do anything is giving you everything. They have so many rules on guns, weapons, how you do this, how to do magic, how to literally be in World War II if you wanted to. You can do anything with all of these masses of rules. And when I say that, it's still not complex, because it's all categorized, it's really simple to understand. It says, oh, gun does this much damage, and we're in a setting with guns, I'll have that gun then. It's as simple as that. And what I like about it is, when you think you can play anything, you might think along the lines of like Dreams, for example. Dreams was a game where they went, now you can make your own game. Here are the tools. Pop to it then. It has all the resources you need to run the game you want to play. Also, in the mention of open games, or making your own system, or own setting, I guess, I got to give a shout out to my friend Craig Hatler, link in the description, for Craig Hatler Games, and he released Personae. And Personae is a system where you can go in any setting. We ran one where it was the Weird West, or at least the Wild West, but we were the weirdos in the Weird West, I guess. I played a fishman in the desert. It gives you a dice system, it gives you some lore, and lets you run wild. It's quite rules light, so that you can have your own role-playing game. I could spoil it, I could keep going, but I'm not going to. I want you to pick up your own copy of Personae in the link below, so you can check it out and look into this whole system yourself. Now, when I mentioned about some games having a rules-light approach, or that the character creation is harder but the game is easy, or the character creation is easy but the game's harder, this sort of thing. But how about a game that is not only open in the sense of what game you run, but the rules are beyond easy? And that game recommendation is Lazers and Feelings. Again, I urge you to look it up yourself, but the whole shtick with Lazers and Feelings is you have 2 stats. Yes, 2 stats. Everything is resolved with the roll of a d6. You have a bar ranging from 1 to 6, and you pick where you sit on that range. You have Lazers and Feelings. Lazers is when you want to do something quite intellectual or planning or violent. Meanwhile, Feelings is feelings. More compassionate, more persuasive. You can choose to have a character that's more violent and you go closer towards Lazers. Which means, if you need to do a Feelings roll, it's going to be much harder. But if you want to do some Lazers, your character is going to be probably more akin to, well, I'll just shoot my way through. But what's quite funny is, let's say that your stat you chose 4. You sit 4 on that d6 range. And as a result, if you hit 4 on your d6, you get Laser Feelings, which, the name alone, when I heard that I was like, I need to play this game. Laser Feelings means you get to ask the GM a question and they have to answer truthfully, which is fantastic, but again, you can't go wrong with a game that has a result on a dice called Laser Feelings. Also, I should mention, if it wasn't clear before with the whole lasers thing, but it's a sci-fi system, so if you like sci-fi, if you like quite retro sci-fi, it's the game for you. You literally can't get easier for creating a character and running the game than asking a player, pick a number between 1 and 6. I have 2 more games in the list. I have Goblin Quest, which I'm going to cover last, because now I'm going to cover Mausritter. Mausritter is a fantasy game that is very much akin to the sort of old school D&D sort of feel, fantasy world, except with one key change. You're a mouse. Yep, it's a fantasy game where you have spells, swords, all this fantasy stuff. You have monsters that you fight. You combat your way through and solve great epic problems. As a mouse, if you've played Grounded, it's just like that. All the threats you fight are the threats that would be a threat to a mouse. Like big bugs and cats. It's kind of like Redwall, if you've read that. The sort of mouse fantasy nightly adventure. And you might be thinking, well, I could just play D&D except say, oh, we're all mice for this campaign. You could do that. And I even tried to make a mouse race for D&D after I found out about this game. But you really can't go wrong with Mausritter because of the uniqueness of its design. The equipment list is so extensive. The inventory management is really fun. Think of it like, I can't remember what game it is. I'll look up what it is and I'll put it on screen. But you have your sort of grid-based inventory, and the way you have your inventory managed is if you can fit it in, because every item has like a square sort of way that it fits in the grid. If you can fit it in there you go. No need to calculate how many pounds of weight and then think, how much does everything weigh? The swords, the equipment, the inventory management is all amazing, and the magic is really cool. The magic is not just, oh, I spend spell slots and I cast magic missile, that sort of thing. You have the expenditure of spells, and the way you get them back is not just, I slept, I sleep, and I get them back. It's more of a case of you need to actually conduct sort of roleplay-wise rituals in order to get your spells back. You cast magic missile, and then you need to, I don't know, get the bell that fell off the collar of a cat, or you need to wake up a sleeping toad, you need to flip over a woodlouse that's on its back, that sort of thing. Also, I couldn't leave this whole subject of Mausritter without mentioning this. You can interact with rats that are lab rats, and because they've went through lab rat experiments, they have psychic powers. I don't know, if that doesn't want to make you play a Mausritter, you're heartless, that's what you are. I can't finish a video like this without mentioning this last game. Goblin Quest. The first time I ever saw Goblin Quest, I think it was the Yogscast who were playing it, and it sounded really funny then. And let me tell you, I played my own version, and it was hilarious. How that whole sort of game went was I said, okay, it's a one-shot. What do you want to play? Here are the options I could run, or that I want to run. What do you guys think? And that friend that I mentioned was like, I just want to play D&D, I don't want to try anything else. And another friend, when I mentioned Goblin Quest, was like, yes. I don't even know what that is. But Goblin Quest sounds amazing. So I said, this is what we're going to do. Make goblin characters for D&D. And what's going to happen is, we're going to have a Goblin Quest and a D&D chaser. But let me tell you, for the whole Goblin Quest part, that friend who just wanted to play D&D, he swiftly realised, oh, this game's awesome. And the whole point of the game is, you come to the game and go, right, think of a theme about your clutch of 5 goblins. Then we're going to make the final goal for the quest, what 3 steps we need to do, and then in each of those 3 steps, what 3 things do we need to accomplish in order to go, and you generate like what things are going to come in the way and stop you from doing each of these things and make it difficult. It's less akin to, I'm the DM and I've got all the puzzles and all the information and you need to solve them and fight everything, and yeah, that's the end of the game. It's more akin to like a party game. Each step of your quest has a difficulty, and the difficulties need to be met and surpassed in order to move on to the next stage, and it's just so funny. And the way that you beat said issue is you just think of anything. You think, okay, we've got a door in front of us, I'm going to try and unlock the door. If you're lame, or if you're like us, we're going to use one goblin as a battering ram, and then this is where the dice comes in. If you succeed, fantastic, you get closer to your goal. If you fail, you get an injury. And you have 2 hit points. As I said, there was a clutch of 5 goblins. Each goblin has 1 hit point, not 2 hit points. So when you lose 1 hit point, if they take 1 more hit point of damage, they're dead, and you have 4 goblins now. Your hit points are your goblins. It's fantastic. We literally had a full scene where we thought, we're gonna die in this room. We can't roll higher than a 3. Like we can't do this. And we were just trying to find a key in a room, and we ended up looking through a medicine cabinet, drinking all the bleach, putting on makeup to look fantastic for a ball we were going to go to later. I was shoving glass in my own head to try and get stuff out of my brain. It was It's insane, and it's so fun to just blow off a night and just have fun around this silly little goblin, everyone's gonna die from just slipping on a puddle of pee sort of situation game. It's just so cool. I recommend the crap out of Goblin Quest, because I know if you have one game, your gaming group is gonna turn around a lot more and go, do you want to play Goblin Quest again? Because it's just that much fun. And that's the list I wanted to show you. So I've run through Grim Hollow, MCDM, Chaosium, RuneQuest, and Call of Cthulhu. I've done the likes of Paizo with Pathfinder and Starfinder. Also got GURPS. I've recommended Personae, Craig Hatley Games, Lazers Feelings, Mausritter, and Goblin Quest. All very different in their feel. The Chaosium games have their own specific avenue that they go down, whether that's fantasy, but also specific kind of combat, and also Call of Cthulhu for that very specific horror, cosmic horror feel. Then Paizo offers science fantasy and normal fantasy. MCDM and Grim Hollow are fantastic ways to enhance your D&D and just in general TTRPG experience. Goblin Quest is a fantastic one and done party-esque game that is just so fun to get through and to just test your brain and get your brain working creatively to create this really funny situation. Mausritter is both adorable and terrifying when you come across like a praying mantis to fight in this fantasy game where you're all cute mouse peoples. And GURPS and Personae where you can just do anything. Where you're like, I like D&D, but I need more fighting as an FBI agent. I recommend that you look through all of these to find the right one for your games, for your table, see what your group really likes, and I guarantee one of these will be fantastic for your next one-shot or game or next campaign that you run. And please let me know if you dive into GURPS, for example, and make your entire original setting. Please tell me about how that went. If you dive into Paizo's games, please come back here and tell me how right or wrong I was about how hard the game is. And again, love you Paizo, love everything you've created. It's just complicated for my dumb brain. This video is a bit different than my other videos. It's not me crafting a bunch of jokes and a script, busting out the green screen, getting on a costume, doing a skit, or that sort of thing. It's just me sitting down, being a human being, and trying to talk to you guys. And hopefully, I hope you enjoy to kind of sit down with me and just, glance into my brain to see what I like in this whole TTRPG thing. So I'm not just sat on D&D like an egg until one day it hatches and I get a out-of-body experience. I don't know. As to why this video is like this, frankly, after doing the previous Fight the Monster Manual stuff, I just wanted to take a break from that. I didn't want to overload everyone with this same video coming out every week. So I'm going to take a second, and also outside of all this video creation stuff, I have like real life stuff that I need to do, so I need to focus on that. Because let me tell you, the date that I'm recording on, I don't know if I should tell you that much stuff, but it basically takes my whole week. I have a day job that I have, and when I'm not at the day job, I'm basically just either making the video, like right now, or I'm editing the video, making a thumbnail, that sort of thing. The whole process really does take up a lot of time for me. So I just needed to, this week, make something that I can show you, put some effort into it, edit it about, and get a video for you, and still, hopefully you enjoyed it. If this wasn't your cup of tea, I totally appreciate that, but I just wanted to show my face, I wanted to keep to the weekly routine thing, and hopefully this was still enjoyable, but I just need to do some real life stuff. Adult things, I know, yawn, but I just needed a week to kind of take a deep breath and just sort some stuff out. Also, I have outside video plans that are to do with the channel that I haven't had any chance to set in motion. I have all these ideas that I've generated, but I haven't been able to take a single step towards it because I've just been wrapped up in editing and compressing and making all these videos. So don't worry, next week I'll have an actual video for you to watch. With all this YouTube stuff, I really want to get to the point where there's a community that we can just come together, we all treat each other with kindness, with openness, and we can all just geek out, like the things we like, share the things we like, and hopefully you guys like the stuff that I put out so that I can keep doing this full time. If you made it this far, me talking about all these different TTRPGs, I mean, I still like D&D, used to like D&D, Dungeon Bits, kind of in the name, and with that, in the description you'll find 2 links to 2 of my currently released D&D classes. I've heard lovely things back in terms of reviews on them. I've heard one person in the comments who actually wanted to get the class and run a game with that class in it and report back to me how it was, which I love. I love getting feedback, positive or negative. So please, if you would look into that. It's not that expensive right now. I lowered the price significantly from when it was first released because I just wanted more people to get it, more people to see it. I put some work into it, so there's some good art in there, some lot of ideas and work that went into it. So I just want you guys to experience that. So please, if you wouldn't mind, you know, that's in there. I think it might be about like $6. I can't remember how much it is specifically, but it's around that region. Also, I was talking about Fighting the Monster Manual. If that means nothing to you, you probably haven't seen the other videos on my channel, so click on the video on screen to take you to those videos. And please, like, share, subscribe to these videos, and what I love the most is sharing these things around, so hopefully more people can join this community, because I love seeing every comment. I love reading the comments, I love responding to the comments and just interacting with you guys. You guys are fantastic, love you all, and with that, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Saturday. I'm going to scream into a pillow. Bye!